Spacey.
We can't talk about that man anymore.
We can't talk about Kevin Spacey?
No.
Okay.
He's done bad things.
I have a question here.
Go on.
This might make it into the podcast. It might not. I don't know. If, like, someone famous that you enjoy does something bad, are they just, you no longer like them?
No, I don't like them as a person, but there's people who are like, don't even watch their stuff, don't support them. I separate their art and the person.
Yeah.
They're two separate entities.
I agree completely.
So I'm not going to look at Baby Driver Kevin Spacey and be like, he did bad things. Or when I look at House of Cards Kevin Spacey did do bad things, but they both did, as a matter of fact.
Like,
they're villains. But I'm not going to stop watching Kevin Spacey movies. They're still good
People
movies.
are like, oh, Bill Cosby's not funny anymore. I'm like, Bill Cosby's still just as funny before we knew that he touched people.
He was bad.
Yeah.
But
he was funny.
He's still funny.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back to Something Interesting. I'm Antonio. I'm here with my friend Joe.
Hello.
And I have to ask you, Joe.
I'm a co-host.
Yes, you are.
I'm not just like an interviewee.
This week you're an interviewee.
Okay.
We'll just count you as that. We're going to talk about a little follow-up. Last week we talked about THC and its effect on the brain, technology in schools, and if it's good or not. And that's really about it. We also talked about tattoos and body modification. Is there anything you'd like to follow up on?
So we talked about tattoo removal, and we did a little bit more research. Turns out we were right about the way tattoo removal works. It's using like sound waves to break up the particles. That makes it easier for your body to expel the pigment that they put under your skin.
And then I had something to talk about with, this is a follow-up for a couple episodes ago.
Okay.
When we were talking about the Facebook Bader Meinhof thingamajigger.
Yeah.
I kind of experienced that firsthand, as a matter of fact. One of my coworkers was talking about there's a Buddhist temple in Michigan that she was talking about with a previous cook of ours. And after they talked about it, on Facebook, she got an ad about that, which prompted this conversation. But I thought, that's...
Did you plug the podcast?
I did. I was like, hey, we talked about this on our podcast.
Oh, man. Look at you.
I had to. But we talked about that. Now, it was... I tried to think of what she could have gone on to... Because we thought it was algorithm-based is why people are seeing this. But as far as I could see, she didn't do anything that was anything related to that.
Maybe.
So how this was
I was just
advertised
trying to
her?
justify it.
Oh,
I'm not saying that it's not possible that Facebook is listening to.
I understand, but it's just another little thing that we can see in the real world, I guess, to maybe justify or to expose Facebook.
Yeah.
If we don't expose Facebook by the end of this podcast,
screw this educational podcast. This is now an expose on exposing Facebook and its inner workings of Mark Zuckerberg and his slimy lizard body.
He's saying AI is not a bad thing and that it's totally fine. Lies! Lies, Joe. We're live in Facebook right now, headquarters.
We're live in Facebook headquarters. We broke in. And, oh my God, is that a security guard? Antonio.
What's up?
You've been on this earth for a good while.
I would say about 19 years at this point.
So you've seen a lot of things in your 19 years.
6 to 12 of them, yeah.
You've seen 6 to 12 things.
Yes.
Is one of these 6 to 12 things a zoo? Have you been to a zoo?
I have. With a friend of mine.
Named Joe.
Yes, with Joe. We've been to the zoo a couple of times.
Together.
Once, actually.
Once together. But individually, several times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what is this analogy of
you know
a zoo
what
going?
They don't have at the zoo? Whales.
Right.
You know why?
They're huge.
Whales are ginormous.
Yeah. You couldn't sustain a whale.
No, not in a zoo.
Right.
The Monterey Bay Aquarium in California tried to keep a great white shark. And it was the longest they've ever kept a great white shark in captivity. It was either 2 years or 2 months or something like that.
It was 2 months, I believe.
And that's the longest they've ever been able to keep one.
Right.
Anyways, most people haven't really seen a whale.
Right.
Because you have to go to the ocean, you have to look for whales, and you have to get lucky enough
to see the whale.
One will actually surface.
Right.
It's like, you'll never be able to experience it.
Never? It's unlikely.
Well, it's unlikely you'll be able to experience it. Yeah. So, whales, I'm talking specifically about sperm whales.
Ah, my favorite kind of whale.
Of course. And, okay, so...
I'm more of a great blue, the the blue whale. That's my kind of whale, by the way. Put that up. Go on.
Talking about sperm whales.
Okay, fine.
Whales are mammals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they breathe oxygen by going to the surface of the water and taking air.
Yep.
Then they dive super deep down into the ocean.
How deep? Do you know? 3,280 feet. Thank you, Internet.
There we go. 3,280 feet deep.
Boom.
You can imagine the lungs like balloons.
Mm-hmm.
You fill up a balloon with oxygen, right? And the whale goes down, it dives underwater, keeps going deeper and deeper and deeper. As the pressure builds on the whale, its lungs are getting shrunk, smaller and smaller and smaller. There's scientific law behind this called Boyle's Law that says the volume of gas and its pressure are inversely proportional.
Mm-hmm.
So the higher the pressure, the lower the volume. So as pressure builds, the lungs are getting smaller. They decrease in size.
Okay.
So what's happening with pressure is the number of particles that are hitting the exterior of the lungs is the pressure. It's the force of those particles hitting the container that they're in.
The force of the pressure on the lungs makes it so it can't expand out, so to speak.
Yeah, but the pressure is caused by the gas inside the lungs, the air, all the particles colliding with the container they're in, which are the lungs. That's the pressure.
Okay.
So the more particles there are in a smaller volume, the more collisions, the higher the pressure.
Yeah.
It goes down, keeps going down. At 32 feet, they're experiencing twice as much pressure on their body as we do at sea level, 1 atmospheric pressure. So they're feeling 2 times atmospheric pressure. They keep going down and down and down. When they get to the bottom of their dive, their lungs can be forced smaller by the pressure, the external pressure of the water, to be 1/100th of the size they originally were.
What?
Now, imagine 100 times the amount of pressure pushing back out of the air in their lungs. That's immense.
That is immense.
All the while this is going on, they're diving down to where no light can travel that far through the water.
Mm-hmm. So they're in complete darkness.
Exactly. And they're hunting. They're looking for food.
So how do they find this then?
They release sonar signals, kind of like the way a dolphin, exactly like the way a dolphin does.
Right.
They release a signal, listen for it back.
Sort of like an echolocation kind of thing.
Exactly, an echolocation kind of thing. Couldn't think of the word sonar, but
It's same difference.
but they eat giant squid.
Yeah.
So giant squid, not your average everyday squid. I think the largest giant squid we've ever found, like a colossus squid, I want to say it was like 20 feet or something like that.
That sounds about right.
It was very large. Underwater, we never get to see it. You can't see it because it's so dark down there. There's battles going on. Whales getting scarred, completely torn up by these squid. Did you find out how long they are?
Yes. Largest giant squid ever recorded by scientists was almost 43 feet long.
That's huge. Yeah. And then what is the size of a sperm whale?
It's about 40 feet.
So 2 giant creatures, each of which can be like up to 40 feet long,
right,
battling it out in complete darkness.
That's like things you hear about in books and like
it's
fantasy.
Crazy.
Yeah. That's happening underneath
and
the
it's
sea.
Like this whole time, this pressure is building up in its lungs. Right. They can dive for, I'm pretty sure, about a half an hour. So they got to find food, kill it, start eating it within this half an hour they have.
Right.
While all this pressure is built up on them.
It's a very constrained, it's a very time-heavy process.
Exactly. So my point that I'm making is there's just things that we can't see.
Right.
We know that these battles exist because we've seen giant squid. We've seen sperm whales. Sperm whales have been found with giant squid in their stomachs.
Right.
And a lot of sperm whales, if you look up pictures and things, they have scars all over the front of them.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy.
Yeah, that's sort of that.
Squid, the only hard part of a squid is its beak,
Mhm.
and its beak is like chomping on the squid or chomping on the whale, but then it has these huge tentacles which latch on to the whale. And it's a war going on that we have no clue is even happening.
Right. Has it ever been seen? Ever? Like,
Not to my knowledge, that we've never seen an actual one of these
wow.
battles taking place. But you can imagine giants
It's just
duking it out.
crazy.
Yes.
Ugh.
But so the point I'm getting to,
Brutal, that's the word.
brutal, yeah. There's things that as humans, as a civilization, will never be able to see, never be able to experience.
Mhm.
Not just here on our own planet, but in our own universe. Right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's so many species even on our own planet. We've only found a fraction of them. And I just think it's interesting to look at what would be able to find.
Mhm.
So a while ago,
Now, are most of those unknown species, are they more sea-based or land-based? Because it seems like...
we know more about space than we do our own oceans.
Really?
They're so little explored because it just gets difficult
Yeah,
at a point.
At one point when you're going so deep,
Yes.
that pressure will kill you no matter what.
A while ago on the Vsauce subreddit, someone had posted an idea for a Vsauce video. How long would it take you to see the entire world? They went on to explain not just look at the world, but like see each individual thing.
Mm.
My first gut reaction was this probably wouldn't make a good video. It'd just be a lot of math.
Right.
And it wouldn't be all that interesting. So then I decided I was going to try to answer this guy's post. I start looking into it. I explain the speed of light, 1.07 times 10 to the 9th kilometers per hour. And the average range that you can see while on Earth is 5 kilometers radius at any given time. I go on and I explain the math behind the size of a city, how far you could logically see in a city, and how long it would take you traveling at the speed of light, which can't even be done given physical limits of having mass.
Correct.
You'd be traveling so fast that the amount of time it would take to see everything in the world just by traveling at the speed of light, and then with the radius that you can see, it would take you roughly 34 seconds to see everything around the world. Then I go on and I talk about a city. If you went to every city in the United States, and then I estimated the size of your average city, looking at every city, going down every single street, making sure you see every side of every building, it'd take you only 2 seconds.
Right.
Beyond this, I explain buildings. To go inside of every building would take an additional 0.005 seconds. So, in total...
How did you figure that out?
I figured out the size, like the average floor space of buildings, and then like I gave X many rooms to the building and like a certain height, so the number of floors and then rooms per floor. So, altogether, added up, what I said to see the entire world traveling at the speed of light would take about 36.015 seconds.
Okay.
That's not very long at all. That
That's a little more
takes
than
you
half a
longer
minute.
to make a cup of coffee.
Right.
Then I went on to explain, even though light travels so quickly, distance in space is so far that we can't even conceptualize it.
Right.
We think of light as being almost instantaneous, but it takes 8 minutes for the light from the sun to get to the Earth, 1 astronomical unit. That's a long time for something that us here on Earth, pretty much no matter the distance, just see light as happening instantly. The universe is a huge place. Our solar system alone is ginormous. So if we could travel 99.99% of the speed of light. There's still a limit to how much we would be able to see. Most of the stars in the sky, when you look up, they're millions of light years away,
Right.
meaning the light that you're receiving now is millions of years old.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to travel, billions of years old, if you were to travel to a star now that you see in the night sky, by the time you got there, it would probably no longer exist.
Yeah.
Because you have to see light that's traveled for millions and billions of years. Then you have to travel towards the light for that amount of time. So you're doubling the amount of time in total.
Mm-hmm.
It would take so long to reach any of these things. They'd just be gone. Not to mention that everything in the universe is separating away from itself.
Mm-hmm.
The whole universe is expanding outwards.
Right.
So, from our point of view on Earth, in what is an insanely long time, billions of years, we'll look up, assuming that we're still here on Earth, we'll look up into the night sky, and it'll just be black. There will be no stars. They'll be too far away, too dim, and dead.
Right.
We won't be able to see any of them.
Eventually that'll happen.
Eventually. So, what won't get lost is things that are held together by gravity.
Mm.
So, like, our solar system is held together by gravity in an orbit traveling around the sun. Beyond this, the Milky Way galaxy is all held together. Then our, like, local galactic cluster. Traveling, no matter how fast you go, the farthest that we'll be able to travel is within our local galactic cluster.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the only things that will always be here.
Right.
It hurts my head to think about one day everything will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it puts a pit in your stomach when you think we'll only be able to experience such a small amount of what is observable. Like, the entire universe, the observable universe.
I spelled universe wrong. Like, really bad.
Yeah, I didn't really pay attention. The entire observable universe, 93 billion light years across. That's 8.8 times 10 to the 23rd kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
That's 8, 8 followed by 22 zeros. That's an insane number. That's so big that you just hear it and it doesn't mean anything to you.
No, your brain can't conceptualize it.
No. And so, I gotta flip back a couple pages now.
So here's one thing I've always wondered before we go on. How do we know the universe is always expanding?
We just know things are getting far away from each other.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at an object in space, you know the Doppler Effect.
Yeah.
It's, the way they explain it is, as an ambulance goes by, as it's traveling towards you, the pitch goes up. And as it's traveling away, the pitch goes down.
Mm.
And it has to do with the source of the sound relative to the wavelength of the sound.
Mm.
So as it's getting closer to you, the frequency, the wavelength, are getting shorter. As it's traveling away, the wavelength is getting longer. The same thing happens with light. Light acts as both a particle and a wave. It's kind of packets of waves. But so we look at the wavelength of light, and we know when things are moving away from us, the wavelength of the light is getting longer. It'll turn more red.
Mm-hmm.
So as we look at things, we know that they're more red.
Okay.
Which means they're traveling away from us.
Okay.
Yeah. So, beyond that, within our own solar system even, we have 1.9 million asteroids.
Okay.
Averaging in 0.6 miles or 1 kilometer in diameter.
Right.
That's giant.
Oh, yeah.
Just to be able to explore all of these asteroids would take a ridiculous amount of time. Just to be able to see everything, to explore, to figure out what they're made of.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we can't go such a great distance on the scale of the universe, there's so much stuff in such a little area, and we don't even appreciate it. We just look up and see what is out there instead of looking even here and trying to explore what's here. Like, you don't think about it when you see a table. You don't imagine the table being made of, like, if it's a wooden table, it's made of, like, plant matter of cells and cellulose.
Yeah.
That, what am I thinking of?
I don't know. What are you thinking of?
Oh, it's made of cells, which are made of atoms, which are made of subatomic particles, so like protons and electrons and neutrons, which are each then made up of smaller particles. And we don't think about how much there is to actually see in such a small area. But on a cosmic scale, we're so isolated. We're so alone. I just think that's like makes my heart drop.
Right. Why does it make your heart drop then?
It's scary to think that one day, no matter how hard we try, we can't reach anything else other than what's directly accessible to us right now.
Well, is it even worth it to get past, to go past our solar system or to even see more? If there's so much space and so little in between, is it even worth it to get past it?
Well, like, if you look at our planet right now, science tells us we, as humans, screw things up.
We're destroying the planet.
We're destroying it. And if we want to survive as a species, which is what happens if it wasn't, evolution wouldn't exist. We want to survive. We're going to have to spread out. We're going to have to go somewhere else.
Right.
So we're going to have to...
Some people are thinking Mars is the next place to go.
Mars would be the next place to go. Another thing, Venus. People don't usually talk about Venus. Venus rains acid.
Right.
Which is cool.
So then how could we live on there then?
The atmosphere is thicker in Venus.
Okay.
So what they want to do, an idea for what would work in Venus, is, you know, Star Wars, a cloud city. They want to build like floating structures in the clouds of Venus that we would be able to like harvest materials from Venus to build things.
So it's the thing of on Venus when you're down there. The atmosphere is much thicker, but as we all know, when you move higher into the atmosphere, it begins to thin out, and at one point, it's thin enough to where we could live there.
Yes.
Did not know about that, as a matter of fact. What about...
It's not like we would be able to like go out and swim through it, but it's like we'd be sort of buoyant on the atmosphere in like a big floating city.
What about one of Saturn's moons? What am I thinking of?
Titan. The moon of Titan with oceans of methane.
Right.
That's another...
Is that one to explore and to look into, or is it
I believe, considering we both know about it,
right?
There's interest in it.
But is it comparable to live on, or is it just one to explore and to learn from and maybe harvest things from?
What we look for. Like, as we look for exoplanets are just planets not within our own solar system. Yeah. As we look for them, we're looking for planets that travel around their star, what's known as the Goldilocks zone. So...
It's just right.
It's just right. It's not too close to the star, so it's burning up, losing its atmosphere. Right. It's not so far away from its star that it's too cold. It's within the Goldilocks zone. There's a little bit of wiggle room within the Goldilocks zone that it can be. Yeah. A misconception a lot of people have is that as long as a planet's in the Goldilocks zone, it can support life. That's not true.
That doesn't make sense.
There's, I'm pretty sure the number that's common to give that we know of, at least 200 conditions, all of which have to be perfect for life to even evolve.
If you think about it, that makes our Earth just even more amazing because all of those things lined up perfectly.
Exactly.
And we're somehow here against all odds.
Yes.
The Earth and humans are still here.
Yeah. Back to what you said, though.
Okay.
If we are able to travel to other planets, to colonize other planets, we colonize the solar system. If we can get to these places, but traveling back and forth to these places is difficult, and we are able to spread out from planet to planet to planet, like planet hop through our own solar system to like at least the rocky inner planets, gas giant would be kind of hard to live on.
You think?
Well, like
I think we could terraform it enough.
Yeah, we'll terraform a gas giant. But what could happen is if they're not able to interbreed from planet to planet, each planet could develop its own species of human. that eventually couldn't
Ooh.
interbreed with each other.
If I remember correctly, it's if someone goes to Mars and comes back, they're able to live. But if someone is born on Mars, because of how the gravity and how things work, they are not capable of living on planet Earth, or at least for an extended period of time, because how things weigh on their body and
born, on Mars, your bones, your muscles, they don't get strong enough to support your own weight here on Earth. It's just like gravity is an important part of pregnancy. That being taken away or being weakened, the force of gravity on a pregnancy, changes the development of a fetus.
Now, do you think this could extend essentially the life of a human? Because I remember it's sometime in middle school, we read a story about people who had colonized on the moon, and when they went up there, they found out that these hamsters, they were living a prolonged life, much farther than they ever
I don't
should.
know.
Could less, and they said, because less gravity, there's not as much pulling down on you, and thus wearing you out as fast, thus living a longer life. Do you think that's a possibility?
So aging is a degenerative genetic disease.
Yep.
Just like so much of what kills people. Every time your cells replicate, you lose a little bit of your DNA.
Right, it weakens.
Yeah, they have big, long tails on the ends of DNA strands. So it's like, normally, that's what gets cut off. Eventually, you start losing important information. And it's difficult now for your cells to reproduce. If you've ever known, like, a very, very old person, like a centurion, someone up in their hundreds, you look at their skin, and it's like paper.
Not my Nona. God bless her soul. She's 80. She looks like she could be 60.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
She's got some good genes.
Yeah, she does.
But, like, their skin will look like paper. And it's because enough DNA has been lost that when the cells replicate, they don't work the same. They don't produce the same proteins, which we've talked about in a past episode. Episode 3, I believe.
Yeah, last episode.
Last episode, yeah. We talked about the way that your body builds proteins. And the genes that are being read to produce these proteins don't work the same way.
Right.
So I feel like it has less to do with the effect of gravity on your body as much as just the longer you live, the more information you lose. And that's why your body will break down.
So no matter
over
where
time.
we live, you think the lifespan of a human will generally be the same?
Yeah. Like, if you live long enough, you will get cancer.
Yeah.
Will you die of that cancer? Maybe not if we can treat it. But if you live long enough, you'll get it. Cancer is just caused by, through DNA replication, certain things get amplified or suppressed. And it causes a tumor to grow. And a tumor is cells within an organ that grow, but they don't serve the function of that organ. So, like, you have a bunch of cells in your lung that starts replicating uncontrollably.
Right.
But they're not lung cells.
Okay.
That's your tumor.
Yeah.
It's just taking up space in your lung. As it grows, it pushes on the other cells, kills those. It keeps getting bigger and bigger, taking up more space in your lung.
So essentially, cells taking over another part of the body where it's not supposed to be.
Exactly.
Expanding enough to where it kills that part of the body.
And it's just caused from a replication error, a mutation of a gene. So every time a cell is replicated, there's 3, on average, errors. There's like a 1 in 1 billion chance of an error occurring on replication.
Right.
We have about 3 billion amino acid pairs that could potentially get screwed up. So 3 errors every time a cell divides.
So each time in the cycle, it gets more and more susceptible to cancerous genetic mutations.
Yeah.
And if you live long enough, your body will have cancer.
You will.
Okay.
There's so many cells on you that divide. The odds of you getting cancer, eventually, you will get cancer.
Right.
If you live long enough. Some of us die of other causes before then. But if you're in perfect health, other than eventually getting cancer, that's what'll happen.
Now, it's just a genetic mutation on a cell-by-cell basis. It's not like because when I think of genetic mutation, I think of something as it's always in your body. It's always like that, as maybe some sort of, I generally think of maybe a chromosome, a genetic mutation, something wrong with that. So when you kill those cells, the tumor and whatnot, it then goes back to a cell-by-cell basis, or is there also sort of
So when
hereditary
yeah.
things. You know what I'm trying to say?
There's
I'm saying it wrong.
two. No, you're right. There's two kinds of cancer. When a child gets cancer, their body hasn't been around long enough, most of the time, for them to start having the mutations that create cancer cells.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been exposed to enough mutanogens or carcinogens to cause issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's a genetic form of cancer. There's very few kinds of cancer that are really transported from parent to child.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, it's just one cell becomes cancerous. It starts dividing
Keeps going.
rapidly and taking up space.
Okay.
So radiation attacks cells that replicate very quickly. So your hair replicates very quickly. It's always building new things. That's why cancer patients lose their hair.
Right.
The inside of your stomach, a lot of cancer patients have issues with like herniations and things because the inside of your stomach, there's acid in there.
Yeah.
It has to replicate so much. And now it's being attacked because the radiation goes after cells that are replicating too quickly, which is cancer cells.
I wonder what the next big thing when it comes to fighting cancer will be, because I've heard, I don't remember who said this, but there was a prediction that at one point we'll look at radiation to kill cancer like we look at leeches to cure any sort of diseases. As it just seems so archaic and seems just honestly kind of stupid.
Probably, yeah, hopefully.
I'm excited to see how that
like
happens.
if you look, when my brother was in college, he took a class and it was on like witch doctor medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And they took a look at like why sometimes this medicine actually worked.
Would that be because of the placebo effect, so to speak?
Well, sometimes, yeah, because of the placebo effect. But also, the things that they used had certain chemical properties that would alleviate symptoms of diseases that people had.
Right.
It would make them better, sometimes treat. And it's
so
just because they got
a random chance.
Yeah, they got so lucky. Then eventually we figure out why that works.
Mm-hmm.
And we make medicine off of it. So hopefully, eventually, we'll learn why radiation works so well. I mean, we kind of have an understanding, but we'll learn so much about it that we'll just be able to get right to it. We'll attack it directly.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's take it back a little bit to the colonization of Mars.
Okay.
Colonization of other planets. How real do you think it is that this will actually happen eventually?
Colonization of other planets?
Yes. And if so, how long
SpaceX
do you think?
has a plan to go to Mars in 2020.
Right. I know about that.
So it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to other planets.
Right, but is it still viable to colonize there?
Sustaining. Okay,
That
so
would be-
a colony, to me, you go somewhere, you have a small population of your people there.
Yeah.
So like the United Kingdom colonizing United States, they just send a small selection of their people.
10 or 15, I'd say.
10 or
think.
15 people.
Yeah.
Well, they just send a ship full of people,
Mhm.
usually multiple ships full.
Right.
So it's like enough to make a small town in that area.
Yeah, okay.
So sending a ship to Mars, just having a small population of our people there,
Mm-hmm.
that's colonization. We've
Right.
done it at that point.
Right. Well, then sustainable colonization.
That's something that I have an issue with because, like we discussed, reproduction at that point, I'm not sure how that would work out.
Mm-hmm. What could happen with that then? What could the effects possibly be on the fetus? Because of our body is meant to breed on Earth. If we're going to another planet, what could
Yeah.
possibly happen? I think the thing of our muscles and bones being weaker is definitely one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But is there more?
This is something I'd have to put more research into. So next week, follow up.
Yeah, follow up will be
We'll get
really
some of
interesting
this.
next week. I'll write this down right now. Effects, not affects. I need to get that down. I sort of understand it. Effects is the verb. Affects is the adjective or the meaning of it. But damn, do I still get it wrong all the time?
So, do you think there's aliens?
When I look at everything and how
Mhm.
big space is,
Yeah.
I cannot say that we're the only people here.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many. There were so many factors going against us to become a thing, and though it would be extremely hard to replicate those
Mhm.
factors, I do think that it happened somewhere else
Yeah.
eventually. Now, are those aliens at a point in their evolution that they can come to us?
Mm-hmm.
That seems a lot less likely.
Okay.
But I think there's something out there that we
Mhm.
just haven't discovered quite
Yeah.
yet.
To me, when people ask me the question, do you think that aliens are real? The answer that I give is if the universe is infinite, you have an infinite number of opportunities for life to be generated.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very likely that there's life on other planets.
Mm-hmm.
But, so we are carbon-based, carbon and hydrogen largely.
Yeah.
Who's to say that some other life form couldn't be built off of a different set of molecules?
Right.
Like silicone is another thing. Or not silicone. Silicon?
Silicon?
Why am I
don't know.
That sounds wrong.
This is your thing.
Yeah.
Well, this part, at least.
Let's go. There we go. Yeah, silicon.
Okay.
So silicon is another thing that they think would work well as a base. And it has to do, at least I believe, with the number of valence electrons around the atom.
Mm-hmm.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I'm a very coffee boy today.
Coffee boy.
Coffee sounds so good right now.
I don't care. I'm not making you coffee.
I know. Still sounds good. But go
You
on
really
with
want a
what
coffee?
No.
When we go do the video episode after this, we can make a coffee for you, and then we'll go and we'll record it.
We'll just go get coffee somewhere. I'm not going to make you make coffee.
It doesn't take long.
But go on with what you were going to say. Silicon as a base is a,
Yeah,
is a
so-
good thing.
So
Possibly.
who's to say that life existing on another planet, we
Mhm.
could even recognize? We might look at a planet, and ours, we know it's green. That means there's plants, there's water, which is blue.
Mhm.
On another planet, you look at it, you might not be able to recognize life on it directly. You'd
Mhm.
have to go to it. And, like, maybe the life there, an intelligent creature, doesn't exist in the same way that we do.
Mhm.
We're like bags of water
Essentially.
surrounded in water, pretty much.
That need water to live, but also can die by water.
Yeah.
What a great species.
Fun
we are.
fact, if you're swimming in a pool of deionized water and the pool gets struck by lightning, you'll be perfectly fine. However, all of your cells will explode because they're...
So I don't think you're perfectly fine.
You're perfectly fine from the lightning, but your cells will explode because they'll be taking in all of this deionized water and swelling up and exploding.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. What's deionized water, by the way?
They take all the ions out of water. So
Okay.
a water ion is like missing or has gained an electron. So
Okay.
it's distilled or deionized.
Okay.
It's a different process for the same result.
Yeah.
What I was talking about, who's to say that we'll recognize life on another planet?
Mm-hmm. Now, do you think they would look like us, such as a bipedal species, or do you think it might be something else? Do you think this is like evolutionarily
Mm-hmm.
one of the perfect sort of structures to have?
I think that for the environment that we exist in, the human form, given our anatomic size, not atomic size, anatomic, we exist in the shape that we are because evolutionarily this is the best shape to be.
Right.
Things our size, our physical size, that we share space with, look like us.
Yeah.
Probably because we share a common ancestor. Like great apes and chimps,
Mm-hmm.
we obviously have some resemblance to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at smaller monkeys, they're more likely to have like longer arms, different things, because they're smaller. They have a different niche in their environment.
Mm-hmm.
Where humans, the role that we play, the body that we have, fits better. So things around our size, like orangutans, we're pretty darn similar to orangutans. Chimpanzees, they're our closest living relative.
Right.
And it's because we share a common ancestor, but also because we're the same size. So
Mhm.
we look similar.
Mhm.
So, like,
I absolutely hate the argument of evolution can't be a thing because they're still monkeys.
yeah, I
on
don't
this
get that.
earth.
Like, in
They're
high
not the
school,
same.
yeah. People in high school, we'd be in a biology class, and then we're, like, talking about, like, people like, if we came from monkeys, how come they're still monkeys? I'm like,
Came from
that's
a
not how
species."
this works. That's not how any of this works.
That's like saying all fish are the same or all
Yeah.
all one type of species is the same. That's not.
Mhm.
There's different subspecies that are then evolved into what we have become into. And you clip that audio a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. That's fine though. Now I want to ask you something then. If this higher intelligence,
Yeah.
we'll start with them coming to us. If this
Mhm.
if this species gained what they needed to come with us, and they
Yeah.
were to make contact. Should we make contact with a alien species?
If they came to us,
let's
we've
say.
made
Okay,
contact.
yeah. But what do you think we should do at that point? Should we recognize it and then not do anything about it, or try to speak back to them, or what do you think?
I think the movie Arrival does a very good job at exploring this.
I need to see that movie. It
You
seems
do.
so good.
So a little explanation. I'll try not to spoil anything. They get a linguist and a physicist to go talk to these aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And so these aliens, they're septipods. So the environment that they were created in is just different. They evolved differently to look differently. And we can't speak with them. Our language affects the way that our mind works, is
Right.
essentially the idea that this movie is exploring. And it's like, how do we know that we can communicate with them in any way? Like I've mentioned in an earlier episode, penguins might as well theorize about astrophysics. If they exist on such a level that they're able to contact us, why do we assume that we'll be able to understand the things that they're talking about?
Well, I thought about this recently because China has recently, I think it's in the last 5 years, they made the largest satellite, so to speak, on Earth.
Okay.
Specifically, I mean, it could be used for other reasons. To show you how powerful it is, they could look at spy satellites when they aren't even on.
Okay.
That's how well they can detect things. Now, it's generally used for scientific purposes, but it's also used to see if there is external life in the universe. Extraterrestrial, external. I think they're kind of the same thing.
No,
but you know,
external is on the outside. Extraterrestrial means not on our planet.
Extraterrestrial life. And there was an article that sort of posed, should they be the first ones? What would happen if they became the first people to figure it out? And if I recall correctly, it was more or less that they could keep it very secretive, as China has been known to keep things to themselves. And then we could either never learn about it, or they could make contact, and then things could happen, and we don't know what would happen. And then that made me look into SETI and what they would do, as a matter of fact. Now, SETI, it was a government-funded sector meant to look for extraterrestrial life.
Okay.
There we go. I got it out. I forget exactly when, but they eventually stopped funding it. Private funders came in and have kept this thing going for a while. And I wanted to see what they would do. Now, as a public company, what they decided to do is they would first go somewhere else and try to verify it, because they have special technology meant to specifically find these things. So they would then
look for signals coming from other intelligent life.
So they would look, they'd go to other places not specifically made for this and see if they could see those signals, verify them, because some places could be trying to fake these signals. And then after that, if they verify it, they quietly go to their investors. All this stuff is done underneath the table. They go to their investors. They talk about what they found. But eventually, they say they will always come out and say, hey, this is what we found. This is it. And at that point, I don't know if it would even be good to tell the public about extraterrestrial life. What do you think? Do you think we should be telling them about this?
Sending a signal back is just difficult. I don't know that we could send a signal back.
Well, do you think we could replicate a signal they have sent to us and then send it back at that point?
So, like,
that's the only way I could think of.
Our radio waves from our civilizations travel out into space, and they just keep going. They've traveled not very far. Right? On a cosmic level. So, should they reach another civilization, by the time that they reach a civilization, like millions of light years away, and then they send one back, if it traveled 1 million light years, it's got to come 1 million light years back. It's 2 million years. The odds of receiving and sending a signal as a form of communication, you'd be waiting 1 million years for them to text you back. It'd be difficult to communicate with them. We'd have to physically go to them, I think, to communicate effectively. Or, I mean, looking for signal, like SETI's doing, it's like we want to know if there is something. I don't think we could get back to them. So I think the public should be allowed to know, because research suggests the collective decision of many people tends to be better than that of an individual. Which It's interesting. It's politics. But
Right.
so I feel like as a society, we'd be able to make better decisions.
Okay. I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's say we go out.
Yes.
Should we make contact with the other planet if we were to see one and know that it has intelligent life that could pick up a signal that we send? Should we send it out?
Is an interesting cultural thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like the book Guns, Germs, and Steel explores why pretty much Europe dominated the whole world. And it's because they had guns, they had germs, and they had steel. So they had guns that killed people, they had germs that killed people, and they had steel that they could use to build things. Could we give disease to other civilizations?
I would say yes.
Yeah. It's like we traveled from Europe to the Americas, killed a bunch of people without even trying to, just from disease.
Or we tried to.
Yeah.
With the smallpox blankets.
Yeah. Like, would contact kill them? Would contact kill us?
Mm-hmm.
Would we want to kill them? Would they be hostile towards us?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like an interesting cultural thing that I think we would need to think about. So I feel like general consensus would be if we find life and we're going to it and we're going to contact it, no one would want us to be aggressive with them.
No.
But if they acted hostile towards us, we would retaliate.
Of course.
The issue here, if they have more advanced technology than us, if they're hostile initially and we retaliate, then they're going to come back at us.
Right.
If we just sent a group of people there, they were hostile towards them, that could be the end of it. I'm not saying, well, I am saying maybe it's best to sacrifice the group of people.
Right.
For the betterment of the collective humanity. But who's to say they wouldn't have seen that as an original attack?
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll come back to Earth, figuring out where it came from.
Mm-hmm. But from what you said, that's most likely the most logical thing to do, is to let this group go down, and whatever happens, to do nothing about it.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if going down there like that would be worth it.
Mm-hmm. You think that maybe we should just observe?
Yeah, just observe. See what life is like from afar.
Yeah.
Because if there's any chance of human death, or even the death of the species, because even if we go down there, they kill us, what's going to happen is if they're a smart enough intelligence, let's say one that could retaliate, I would say the thing that they would want to do is take our bodies, dissect them, figure out how we work.
I think that's what we would do.
We would do that to them. I mean, that's the logical thing to do, in all honesty. You want to see how an animal works, you cut it open after it's dead, or you kill it. But I think that small group of people, their death could, in turn, kill a whole group of the alien species. So, sure, there would be loss of life on our end, but there would be loss of life on their end, and it could be at a detrimental scale, since these are germs, possibly germs and things that they have never experienced before. So I think from afar is what we should do, is what we should look at, and sort of evaluate, should we go down there? Is it
we should
the right
observe
idea?
and learn instead of just going in and exploring.
Right.
Okay.
So, Joe,
Antonio,
need to ask you a quick question.
well, what question would you like to ask?
Would you like to ask Reddit a little bit?
Let's ask Reddit.
Oh, podcast.
Yeah, you forgot the D. What everyday innovations are actually genius?
Everyday innovations?
Yeah.
Such as? What do you consider an everyday innovation?
The doorknob.
The doorknob?
Yeah.
You think that's an amazing
Something we
thing?
use every day, but like
Vehicles, then.
vehicles.
Yeah, that's...
The wheel.
The wheel.
We take for granted.
Right. I mean, imagine how long it would take in a car. Because we don't have cars, we go wherever we want, whenever we want. But imagine how it used to be. Going a few miles was a day trip. Because you had to walk there or take your little horse there.
Your little
and then
horse.
you stayed there. Only the littlest horse could go with you.
People only rode ponies for a very long time.
Okay, what cringy,
That's not true.
What cringy moment in your life keeps you up at night when you randomly remember it? Like, still keeps you up at night. Those moments. Ugh.
I don't want to talk about it.
Hey, what conspiracy theory are you convinced of?
There's conspiracy theories that have actually been proven true.
That's true.
Like the CIA doing mind control tests on people.
Or wiretapping into us?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, but those have been proven.
That's true.
What about now?
Conspiracy theories that I can see happening, or I think are true.
Mm-hmm.
the government and their readiness to withhold information from the public.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they totally would.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think there's already so much information out there that they don't tell us that I can't imagine what'll eventually be brought out.
Okay.
It almost scares me a little bit.
Those of you who don't claim to watch the news, do you watch the news?
Traditionally, no.
Okay. How do you keep up with current events?
YouTube videos. Generally, that's how it is. But if you think about it, at this point, that could be considered the news. If you're learning about the news through one medium or another, whether it be YouTube or Fox or CNN, it's still the news all in all. So I think we all watch the news. It's just a matter of where do you get it from.
I will say I don't watch the news, and I'm not
No,
up
you
to date
don't.
on current events.
No, you aren't.
At all.
That's-
If something really big happens, I know about it, and that's just because the art subreddit will make tributes to it, and that's the only reason I know what's going on. It's like, obviously I know some level of current events, like about like political climate, these kinds of things that could potentially affect me, or like if I need to vote for something, read into that. But
Right, yeah. Now, if you could raise a kid and teach them one blatantly false thing just to screw with them, what thing would be the funniest?
every night, so what you do is you get them on the front porch one night as the sun's going down. You hold up a quarter at an arm's length, and you show them how the sun is only about the size of a quarter. So every night when the sun sets, it makes a quarter-sized hole in the ground somewhere.
And you would teach them that?
Yeah.
All-
I got that from Kelvin and Hobbes.
That's such a good... That's pretty good. I'll give you that much.
What did you do completely wrong until someone pointed out? I'm going to answer this one for
Yeah.
you.
What?
It's not something you did wrong. Something you didn't know how to do. You'd never eaten a fried egg.
Oh, yeah!
And you didn't know until you watched me eat a fried egg.
Yeah, that was... We were up north at Joe's cabin, and his father made us fried eggs. And he put it in front of us. I said thank you, as a good boy does. And I was just looking at it like, I don't know what to do with this thing. And I watched Joe as he did it. And as he does it, he eats the part that's not the yolk, the whites of it that's been cooked, and then eats the yolk in one big go.
Yeah, I'm a
It's
crazy
disgusting.
person. I just
hate
eat
it,
the yolk.
But I just did it, and I was like,
Yeah, nobody
this is
just eats
gross.
the yolk. Most people like split the yolk and they'll like use their cereal.
I can't believe you did that to me. Did you just do that question to just make fun of me?
Yeah, I did that question entirely to make fun
I
of you.
can't believe it.
Now it's on the internet.
It is on the internet, but it's not in my name. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, it is.
No.
Well, I mean, we introduced ourselves at the beginning of this episode.
Well, I mean, no one listens to this stupid podcast. I don't like these Ask Reddits. It's like it is a question, not a opinion sort of question. Like, why do women have better handwriting than men? That's like a different subreddit. This is meant to get different opinions from people.
Yeah. If professors had to rate my student, what was yours?
I would say, okay, so we're going to split it up in categories from...
Okay. First, give me how many stars.
I think it would be a 4 out of 5 because of respectability, attentiveness, and overall good behavior. And when it comes to schoolwork and whatnot. What I would get points deducted from is the fact that I don't do any of my homework. I talk in class at times, but not too much. And that's about it. What about you? What do you think yours would be?
Very quiet, very attentive. That's probably about it.
I don't know. When you get into certain classes, you are very...
In high school, yeah,
brash.
but like college courses, not as much. In high school, yeah, but this is specifically per professors.
No.
So I'm assuming this is at like a university.
Yeah, that would be very quiet. I don't talk to anybody in my classes. What's something mundane that has always fascinated you?
Did you ask me this question? This is something you ask me on your own all the time.
Is it?
Yeah.
Probably.
Because I'll be talking about something, you'll be like, this is so stupid. I'm like, it's so interesting.
No, it's not that I ask you about it. It's that I point out that's stupid.
I guess. What I find insanely interesting
But
is
that's mundane.
oscilloscope music animations. They're so cool.
Okay. I get it.
What's the weirdest way that your name has ever been mispronounced?
I was going to say, I think the infrastructure of our phone system is very cool that nobody is appreciating. but whatever. I don't care.
Obviously, nobody appreciates it because I'm gonna steamroll right over you. What's the weirdest name your name's ever been pronounced?
So my first name, Antonio, is generally pronounced correctly.
Okay.
Unless someone says Antonino,
Mm-hmm.
which happened every once in a while, but very few and far in between. It's my last name,
Uh-huh.
the Italian way.
Yeah.
Maurici.
Okay.
Maurici, the American way, Maurici.
Yeah.
I've heard people say Moriki, Morke, Morki, Mori, Mori, More, Antonio M. That's about it.
Antonino Moricchi.
Antonino Mariki. What do you want for Christmas?
What do I want for Christmas?
We're getting to that time. Of year.
$500 cash, ideally. Well, I mean, if I could have anything, probably infinite money, but $500 cash is what I really want.
I think that is the most sensible answer someone could give. When people ask me, what do you want for your birthday? Nothing. I want money if you're going to give me anything.
Yeah, that way I can buy what I want when I need it.
Exactly. I'm not putting this pressure on you. Whatever you're going to... Okay. Think of buying me something. How much was that going to cost? Don't buy it. Give me the money right now.
Yeah.
Done. Boom. That's it.